Hey guys, welcome to another installment of the Academy, and thanks for watching. Let's talk about 2-hit in the starter kit system. This is example number 6 from the ASL starter kit rulebook. Example 6, part 1. There are two-hit examples against infantry type targets in the rulebook. This is part 1. I'll do a part 2 later. There is nothing about hitting vehicles in this example. That will also come in a later example. All we're talking about here is firing at infantry targets using the infantry target type and the area target type. And since I mentioned those, let me show you a brief summary of those two different target types. So the two different target types, other than vehicle, are infantry target type and area target type. And the way to think of these, well, the way I've wrapped my head around them for years is infantry target type is you're specifically trying to target an infantry unit in a hex. Area target type is you're sort of bombarding that hex with a bunch of firepower. And the result of that is in the infantry target type, it's harder to get a hit, but you get more of an effect if you get a hit on the thing you're targeting. On the area target type, it's easier to get a hit because you're bombarding the hex with multiple shots as an abstraction, but it's harder to get an effect. Thus, the infantry fire table firepower for area target type is half. So easier to hit, but harder to affect. And the types of ammo that you can use are for both. You can use HE for both. For infantry target type, you can use what's called HE equivalent, and that includes light anti-tank weapons. So anything like Panzerfaust, Panzerschreck, Bazooka, Piat, etc., uses the infantry target type. Okay, and for the area target type, anytime you fire smoke or white phosphorus, you always have to use the area target type. And whenever you fire those two, those use up all of your rate of fire unless you're firing a mortar. Mortars always have to use area target type. Thus, when they fire smoke or white phosphorus, they can maintain a rate of fire, but they're the only type of gun that can do that. Any other gun other than a mortar that fires smoke and white phosphorus using area target type uses all of their rate of fire, no matter what they roll, no matter what the color die roll is on your 2-hit, your rate of fire is done at that point. And that's what this column here summarizes, rate of fire. Fire infantry target type, you can maintain a rate of fire. You're trying to hit a specific unit in a hex. Area target type expends all your rate of fire. You're bombarding that hex, so it's easier to hit something in the hex. But since you're spreading your fire out, you're going to have less of an effect on the infantry fire table. Acquisition, infantry, just to differentiate between the two target types you're using. Infantry target type is a 1/2 inch acquisition counter. Area target type is a 5/8 inch, the larger size. TEM die roll modifier. So for the infantry target type, the TEM die roll modifier applies to the 2-hit roll only. When you use area target type, the terrain effect modifier applies to the infantry fire table results roll. There's a little superscript here too. TEM can never apply to both the 2-hit die roll and the resolution die roll. You can't double dip in ASL. TEM applies to one or the other. It never applies to both. Hindrances always apply to both. Terrain effect modifier and hindrances are two different things. A hindrance applies to both infantry target type and area target type. TEM only applies to the 2-hit roll for infantry target type and only to the infantry fire table roll for area target type. Okay. Now this summary, these few cells here in this table, if you can lock this down in your head, it'll go a long way to learning the 2-hit process for at least these two type of area target types. You get these down and you've got 80-90% of which to use in what situation, which die roll modifiers to use in which situation, that sort of thing. So infantry fire table resolution. Infantry target type is full firepower equivalent on the infantry fire table. with no TEM die roll modifier, just like I said, unless there's a critical hit. Now, if you get a critical hit, you reverse the die roll modifier and apply it to the unit affected. So if you get a critical hit on a squad in a building, you use the +3 on the 2-hit roll, but if you happen to get a critical hit, you reverse that, and it's a -3 on the infantry fire table. Critical hits can be devastating. The critical hit chance is a little bit higher on the infantry target type. The final 2-hit die roll with modifiers applied has to be less than half of the required 2-hit die roll that you find on your 2-hit chart for starter kit. Okay, and then for area target type, the infantry fire table resolution is half firepower, with the TEM applying to the die roll, the infantry fire table die roll. Critical hit chance is lower than infantry target type. You need to get basically a snake eyes, a natural 2, when you fire area target type. And again, here's the summary for both. Infantry target type, harder to hit, easier to affect. Harder to hit because TEM applies to the 2-hit. Easier to affect, firepower is not halved, and there's no TEM. Area target type, easier to hit because there's no TEM on the 2-hit. Harder to affect because that TEM applies to the infantry fire table result, and it's half firepower. So which to use in which situation is very situational. Unless I'm firing a mortar, I almost always use infantry target type unless the chance to hit is, really small and there are no other targets on the board. Then maybe I'll try an area target type, especially if it's a larger caliber weapon, to see if I can get sort of an effect. But I typically use infantry target type when I'm firing non-mortars, and area target type has to be used for mortars. So this is the only time infantry target type, choosing to use that is about the only decision you have to make when firing a gun. And again, that is really situational. All right. So that's the summary, kind of a nutshell of the 2 different target types that we're going to be talking about in this example. Let's take a look at this example. Here I have it set up on Vassal. Here it is in the rule book. Okay, 2-hit example number 1. This is on page 10, it looks like. We have a German 88L deadly gun, and we have 2 squads. We have this American paratrooper in J5 and a Devil squad in 04. Let's switch back to Vassal. Now, you can see the covered arc drawn here. So he's going to take his first shot, and he's going to take a shot at this squad in the woods, and he's going to declare infantry target type. Okay, so remember what that means is TEM applies to the 2-hit, and the 2-hit, it will be at full strength on the infantry fire table. So let's see what we have for range modifier. We have a range of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. TEM is going to be +1 for the woods. It looks like we're going to have hindrances here from the grain. Grain is in season in this example. Now in the example, they claim a +1 hindrance. I did a line of sight check on this earlier, and it's actually a +2, at least on the Vassal map. So I'm going down to here. So you're going to get +1 hindrance here, and maybe you can see it, but it does just clip inside the L4 hex. It does go over just a smidgen of the grain there. So it's actually a +2 hindrance, at least on the Vassal map. So on the real map, maybe it's a little harder to determine depending on the thickness of the string you use, but I'm going to call it a +2 hindrance. Okay. So +2 hindrance, +1. What do we need to hit? +3 total to hit using infantry target type. What do we need to hit? Let's see, 88L. I'm using sometimes I use, when I'm doing SK stuff, I use the full ASL, but I'm actually going to refer to the German starter kit 2-hit. It's sort of simplified. They've baked a lot of the modifiers kind of into some of these numbers. but we've got an 88L and we're at range 4. We're at 3 to 6. So we need a base 8 to hit and a 3 to get a critical hit. So that's less than half of the 8, right? So we have a +3 total. So basically we need a 5 to hit, and it has a rate of fire of 2. And we got a hit, and we maintain rate of fire. So we almost got a critical hit. In the example, they missed, but I rolled and we got a hit, and we got rate of fire. We needed a 5, we got a 4. So it's going to be full firepower. Don't have to mark him prep fired. And full firepower. And you can see here on the starter kit charts, they have the firepower column that you should use. So the infantry target type 88L is going to be a 16 firepower. If you use area target type, it's going to be half, 8 firepower. And if you get a critical hit, it would end up being 30 firepower. So we're at 16 firepower. 16 firepower, even. No modifier because we use the TEM on the 2 hit. Hindrances never apply to a infantry fire table result, only to a 2 hit. Or when you're firing ordnance. It applies when you're firing small arms at one another, like infantry against infantry. So we have a 16 even here. Let's roll, see what we get. Seven on a 16. 2 morale check. They need a 5 to pass. And they failed the morale check. They broke. Okay. Maintain rate of fire. So what he's going to do is he's going to take another shot. He's going to fire over these guys here. Okay, I had to rotate the covered arc 1 hex spine. And you can see the new covered arc. This squad is just within their covered arc now. There's no TEM on this shot. There's going to be a +1 for hindrance in this hex in the intervening line of sight. And if we check our charts here, the 2 hit for German, well, for basically all ordnance, guns and vehicles only, covered arc change per hex side, ×2 if they're in a woods or building, which they are not. 360-degree mount or a fast turret. This is a 360-degree mount. It's an anti-aircraft gun, 88L. So 1 hex spine change is going to be a +1 modifier. Okay. So we have a +2 total. Again, we're at range 2 now. So we need a 9 base to hit. With a +2, we basically need a 7 to hit this time. And we roll an 8 and we miss. And one thing I forgot to do, but I can do it real quick here. So these guys are marked prep fire. I'm gonna say it's prep fire phase. One thing I should have done is I should have put an acquisition down here on this, but because they changed their covered arc, because they maintained rate of fire and fired over here, this acquisition would now shift over to that hex there in any subsequent shots. Okay, that's it. Pretty simple example for 2 hit. I just wanted to emphasize the difference between infantry target type and area target type, how terrain effect modifier impacts them, and how the choice of which one you use or which one you have to use in the case of mortars always will dictate how much firepower you resolve for on the infantry fire table and what sort of effect that would have. We did not get a critical hit in this case. Chances are we weren't going to, because we would need a 3 over here and I think a 3 here as well on the second shot. No, a 4 would have done a critical hit, but we didn't get a critical hit in either case using the infantry target type. Okay, in the next example, we're going to talk about 2 hit example 2. We're going to take a look at a little bit of everything. We're going to have an anti-tank gun, a light mortar, a support weapon mortar, and a heavy mortar, an 81mm German with a 3 rate of fire. If you've ever played with one of these things are a menace on the ASL battlefield. Okay, look for that example coming in the next week or two or whenever I knock it out. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Get to the chopper!
If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you saw, thanks for watching, and let me know how I can do better. See you in the next video.